Hello friends, a very warm welcome to Lit ECT, the one-stop channel for all your requirements, especially regarding preparation for NTA NET. Dear friends, in this session we are going to cover 20 questions related with 6th unit of your NET syllabus, that is English in India, History, Evolution and Futures. As you all know, it is recently added in the NET syllabus and questions have been asked regarding introduction of English language as a medium of instruction, its political and social relevance and its status, its the present scenario and upcoming challenges. What will be the future of this language and how different commissions, different type of terms have been employed. All these are very important areas, especially if we consider our NET exam. So I hope you all will enjoy this quiz, because it will not only give you insight into this exciting new field, but also give you some information which will be very important for the coming exams. So let's start this quiz with our first question. And our first question, dear friends, is a language used for communication between groups of people who speak different languages is known as. I hope you all have read about this particular kind of system, where a link language, where a language which is basically understood by both parties, not fully but comprehensive, to a bit comprehension is used. So what is the name, what is the term which is used to describe such language? Your options, my dear friends, are first basidialect, second argot, third meta language and fourth lingua franca. All these are terms related with sort of languages, communication languages, but let me tell you the answer for this term, and it is very important also. The answer for this particular question is lingua franca. Side by side, let me tell you something about these other terms. For example, basidialect. Basidialect is a form of language which is generally considered to have less prestige than other form, that is basidialect. Please remember all these things. It is a substandard version of a language. On the other hand, argot is basically words and expression that are used by a small groups for particular purpose and that are not easily understood by other people. For example, we can say in a science convention, in a meeting, in a seminar which is related with molecular biology or something, we can say other thing, the terms, the jargons used by that, or even in the shopkeeper unions, there is argot. It is understood only by that particular class. Meta language is talking about language, thinking about language, how languages are evolved. While our answer lingua franca is the language which is used for communication between groups of people. Now I must here tell you that it is different from pidgin. Pidgin is also we can say a communicative mode, but it is not a pure language. It is basically a hybridization of language. It is making up of only for trade purpose, only for communication purpose. On the other hand, lingua franca is a pure language. For example, in India, if two people one belonging to northern India and one belonging to southern India, they want to interact with each other, they won't use a pidgin, rather they would use lingua franca, that is English, which is basically understood by both northern and southern Indians. Okay, our next question, dear friends, is in 1948, independent India's first Education Commission was set up, and it recommended that English should continue to be studied in high schools and universities. Actually, there was a very we can say heated debate among the first parliament or all the we can say education minister and different parties regarding the continuity to use English language. Some considered that it was basically a residual of colonial rule, so it should be totally abolished and Indian languages should be promoted. But there were other also who considered that English is not just a colonial language, it is mode of our it is like a passport to our entry into the world. So first Education Commission, it recommended that we should not cease to learn English, rather we should it should be continued to studied in high schools and universities. Okay, the options are the Radhakrishnan Commission, the University Education Commission, the Kunjuru Commission, or both A and B. Both A and B because actually the University Education Commission is another name for the Radhakrishnan Commission, and this is our answer. Let me in passing tell you about this Kunjuru Commission. It was basically established under chairmanship of H. N. Kunjuru. He was a great, we can say, educationist, and he was also judge, and he basically this commission was set up to evaluate various schemes related with physical education. So Kunjuru Commission का जो basic area था, that was physical education. So our answer is Radhakrishnan Commission because it was headed by Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, or the University Education Commission. It was the first commission which was set up in 1948. Very important, we have this question. In his significant book, Three Circle Model of World Englishes, Braj Kachru proposed 3 concentric circles of English speakers. Which among these is not one of them? Okay, Braj Kachru, he is phenomenal, we can say, name in this study of this field of Indian Englishes. He has proposed many models, and he has basically studied deeply the structure, the teaching, and the output of English language. So he talks about 3 circle, and we have the expanding circle, the inner circle, the outer circle, or the middle circle. You have to find out which among these is not one of the circles which he includes in his 3 circle model. The answer, dear friends, is the middle circle. Here, let me briefly introduce you with his theory of these circles. So these are 3 circles. The inner circle is actually those countries in which English is the first or dominant language. They are norm makers. They basically, this inner circles, they are norm makers. They establish grammars, vocab, and what is correct usage. So they all are norm makers, and countries basically UK, then USA, you can include in inner circle. The outer circle, this outer circle is basically non-native varieties of English, and it is because of colonial rule of England for such a long time that these countries have developed their own variety, their own version of English language. India, Nigeria, many African and many South Asian countries come into this particular circles. They are not basically norm makers, but they are challengers. They challenge the norms, and they sometimes make their own rules, their own variation, deviations, which gradually gets acceptance. And the last one is the expanding circle. The expanding circle, the speakers have to follow the rules established by the inner circle and developed by the outer circles. So it is because they have not been the colonies of British, so they are just introduced to English, and they use it only as a business language, as a passport to the world. So China, Russia, Brazil, such countries, they are in the expanding circles. Please focus on this point because it is very important for the upcoming exam. Our next question is with the objective to train teachers of English to produce teaching material and to improve the standards of English teachings in India. This institute was set up in 1958. So it is important. The date is very important. 1958. The options are the Central Institute of English or CIE, Regional Institute of English RIE, Madras English Language Teaching MELT, or the Central Institute of English as Second Language. Okay friends, first of all, the last one, it is not we can say an authentic name. There is no such institute with this name. Actually, the correct answer is the Central Institute of English. It was established in 1958 and later it was basically named as Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, CIFAL, Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages. It was set up in 1958. Okay, moving ahead with our next question. In 1954, English Language Teaching Institutes, ELTIs, they were set up in India. Where was the first center set up? Where was the basically its first center set up? And your options are Allahabad, Mysore, Calcutta or Hyderabad. So the first ELTI, ELTI in 1954, please remember all these dates are important. First university or which universities were not set up in 1857, first Indian Education Commission, first ELTI, first Central Institute of English, then ELTIs, it was in 1954 and it is in Allahabad where the first center was set up. Moving ahead with our next question, a very interesting question and very important one also. It is written by Sir Henry Yule and Arthur Coke Burnell and first published in 1886. This book is a historical dictionary of Anglo-Indian words. Anglo-Indian words, basically these were Indian words and later it was assimilated in English vocab and terms from Indian languages. So the name of books are Sahib, Nawabs and Boxwalas. Second is Hanklin Jenklin. Third is a dictionary of words used in the East Indies. And the last one, Hobson Jobson, a glossary of colloquial Anglo-Indian words and phrases. All these books are related with the use of Indian words in English vocab, but the first book of this type which became very popular, Bible of Anglo-Indian words, it is Hobson Jobson, a glossary of colloquial Anglo-Indian words and phrases. It was compiled by Sir Henry Yule and Arthur Coke. If we talk about other books, Sahib, Nawab and Boxwell, it is quite a late edition and it is compiled by Ivor Lewis and published in 1991. So quite a late edition. Hanklin Jenklin, as the name suggests, it is edited by Hankin and in the year 1994. A dictionary of words used in East Indies, Samuel Rousseau, he published it in 1804. It is the first book, it is the first study of words used in East Indies, and the most popular one is this one, Hobson Jobson. The Indianization of English, the English language in India, is a major book tracing the development of distinctive Indian characteristics in English language at all linguistic levels, phonetic, grammatical, lexical and semantic. Who is the writer of this book? It is very, you can say, seminal book in this particular field of study, and options are Braj Kachru, A.K. Ramanujan, Gopichand Narang or Kapil Kapoor. All four of them are known for their studies, for their research regarding development and use of English in India. But the answer for this particular question, the Indianization of English, is Braj Kachru. You know very well about A.K. Ramanujan. He is not only a poet, major poet, but also a translator of great esteem. Gopichand Narang sir, he is an Indian theorist, literary critic. He writes in Urdu and English. And Kapil Kapoor, he is editor-in-chief of Encyclopedia of Hinduism, English in India. Such are the name of books which are basically credited to his name. Our next question is, One of the earliest and most significant indigenous contribution to the debate of English education in early 19th century was a letter addressed to the British Governor-General Lord Amherst to protest against the opening of a Sanskrit College in Calcutta. The writer of this letter. So basically what we have seen in one of the earlier questions, that there was a two-way, we can say, response towards the English language. On one hand, there were protests regarding its use, and on the other hand, there were, we can say, Western influenced champions of English language. So you can say in this letter, this prominent personality of that time, he opposed that Sanskrit College should not be opened in Calcutta because it will take back us to, we can say, pre-modern times. So your options are Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar, HLB Derozio, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, or Michael Madhusudan Dutt. All four belonging to, we can say, West Bengal and the intellectual movement, the Bengal Renaissance, we call it. They all belong to it, and they all are named associated with this English language. Derozio is considered to be the first poet. Madhusudan Dutt is also a great poet. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, he is a social reformer and educationist, and Raja Ram Mohan Rai, we all know about his contribution. And yes friends, Raja Ram Mohan Rai is the answer for this particular question. The teaching of English in India started in a systematic way with this report, which has been called the Magna Carta of Indian Education. Now you can understand the importance of this particular report, which is considered to be one of the shaping influence of education in India in the British period. So your options are Macaulay's Minute 1835, Wood's Dispatch 1854, Hunter's Commission 1882, and the University Education System. All these are very important, we can say, commissions or committees which influenced the whole of Indian education system for a long time. There have been debates and discussions regarding them, their impact on Indian education system. For this particular question, the Magna Carta of Indian Education, it is basically Wood's Dispatch. We all know the importance, the debate, the controversy, the ever we can say doubting doubts raised about Macaulay's Minutes, but it is basically Wood's Dispatch which introduced systematic English into India. English as second language. We have seen this term a lot of time in our studies, ESL, English as second language. Now, what may it refer to? It may be a situation where it is taught for certain specific purposes like translation or communication at certain levels. When it is used as a medium of instruction from preschool to university. Third, a situation where English is used widely for purposes of administration, education, and as a common link language, which or it may be both B and C. Okay friends, if a particular language is used for a specific purpose, it is known as English for special purposes. It is also ESL, but this S stands for specific purposes. It may be for scientific or for some diplomatic missions. When it is used as a medium of instruction from preschool to university, it may be third language, it may be optional language. But second language is a situation where English is used widely for different purposes: social purpose, administration purpose, business purpose, education purpose. Then it becomes a link language, which we have already seen, lingua franca, or a second language of the nation. So this is the correct answer. After independence, English was given the status of the subsidiary official language through this act. We know very well that Hindi was designated as the official language of India, but Later on, English was also considered, because of the protest by southern states, it was also considered as the subsidiary official language, and Official Language Act 1965, Official Language Act 1957, Official Language Act 1969, or Official Language Act 1950. Okay friends, it is also very important information. It is Official Language Act 1965. Moving to our next question. When was the three language formula first proposed, whose main aim was to satisfy all the colliding perspectives on language? When I say colliding perspectives, I mean to say that there were northern Indians who want to keep Hindi as the only language, a medium of instruction, while on the other hand there are southern states, especially all the we can say leaders of Tamil Nadu and Kerala, they opposed this particular dominance of Hindi language throughout the India. And to satisfy all these things, three language formula was proposed, and it was first proposed Radhakrishnan Commission on Higher Education, the Kothari Commission, the National Policy on Education 1986, or the Ramamurthy Commission 1990. Okay friends, it was the Kothari Commission 1964 to 66 which proposed this model, in which there used to be three languages. First was the mother tongue, or we can say the regional language. Second one was the official language of the Union, which is Hindi or English, because English had already become the subsidiary language. And third was a modern Indian or any European foreign language which are not covered in either one or two. So this was the three language formula, and later all the chief ministers agreed to this formula and it came into existence. This term is used by Braj Kachru to highlight the Indian English tendency of forming compound words to emphasize concepts. Some examples include English educated, Himalayan blunder, change of heart. The term is phrasemongering, hybrid collocation, decline of bilingualism, or colonial appropriations. Let me tell you, colonial appropriation is a very different thing, and it is basically discussed in post-colonial discourse. Decline of bilingualism, it is a very important concept, once again given by Braj Kachru. Hybrid collocation is actually part of phrasemongering, and the answer is phrasemongering, where we basically mix, where we are fond of making phrases because of our influence of Sanskrit grammar and Sanskrit mode of making phrases. That is why we also love to reduce, we love to change English larger phrases into Indianized shorter phrases. I have already talked about decline of bilingualism. It is another concept which you should focus on. What is decline of bilingualism? According to Braj Kachru, there is basically regarding proficiency of English, we can say a decline. There is a 0 point where a person is monolingual. Okay, he knows only one language. Uneducated speakers, domestics, butlers, and if they have to use English, it is butler English. Then there is a central point where students, or we can say bit educated persons, they know a bit of grammar and they can use English for communication. And on the highest point we have ambilingual or bilingual point, highly educated speakers, university lecturers, journalists, and they are able to use standard Indian English quite easily, fluently. So it is decline of bilingualism. What is the term used to define the errors made by carrying over the speech habits of the native language or dialect into a second language or dialect. It is a technical, you can say, term, and very important question also this. When we are accustomed to speak one particular language, let us say our mother tongue, and when we begin to learn second language, a foreign tongue, especially for example English, it is a tendency to take the emphasis, the speech habit of the first language into the second language. What is the term for this? Your options are dialect boundaries, interference, register, or pidgin. All four terms are very important. The correct answer is interference, but let me define other terms also. What is dialect boundaries? It is number of differences in pronunciation, grammar and vocab in adjacent region. Okay, so one person is living in Maharashtra and other is living in Gujarat or Rajasthan, or for that case in Madhya Pradesh. They are adjacent territories, but still there is a difference in pronunciation, grammar and vocab. Register is basically a variety in a language used for a specific purpose as opposed to social or regional dialect. So register is for a special purpose. We have already discussed about pidgin. It is a mixture of elements from different natural languages where intensive language contact, where speakers of different languages came into intensive contact and they are restricted to one particular group. Our next question, twice born English is one of those terms that is used as a euphemism to describe Indian varieties of English. So who coined this term? Your options: Braj Kachru, Raja Rao, C.D. Narasimha, or Meenakshi Mukherjee. Let me tell you, Braj Kachru we have already discussed. Raja Rao also in his, for example, in his novel Kantapura, the preface of Kantapura, he has very beautifully described the dilemma of an Indian writer writing in English, that when he says that it is not a language of our emotional makeup but rather a language of intellectual makeup. C.D. Narasimha, he is a very, very reputed intellectual, and he has brought out abridged version of Discovery of India by Jawaharlal Nehru and title it Rediscovery of India. But the answer for this question is Meenakshi Mukherjee. It is in her book Twice Born Fiction that she pointed out that in India, English is born out of twice born, two parents, India and English. It is a unique, you can say, variety of English. It is nothing like, we can say, a variation or a deviation, but rather an authentic variety of English. Which among these is not one of the popular varieties of Indian Englishes? Now, India has variety of Englishes used according to the proficiency, which we have seen in the decline of bilingualism. So we have Babu English, we have basically Butler English, and we have Boxwala English. We also have, we can say, Brown Sahib English. So these are names given to different, we can say, languages. Out of this, dear friends, let me tell you one by one. Babu English, it is associated with works of clerks, and it is marked by extreme stylistic ornamentation, formal syntax, superficiality, verbosity. Butler English is spoken by servants. Boxwala English is English, the language of trade and commerce, used by low-level shopkeepers. The answer, there is nothing like Brown Sahib English. So there is, it is not the name of variety. English textbook, Indian publisher. It is a landmark essay that focuses on the nexus between the academia, publisher and the state policies, the role of the publishing industry in the successful formulation of English studies in India. It's a very well carried out research by this great scholar Meenakshi Mukherjee, Makarand Paranjpe, Urvashi Butalia, or B. Rajan. All names, they all are great names of critics who have studied the scope of language, the development of English language in India, the varieties of English language in India, and the answer for this question is Urvashi Butalia. She has done this research, how printing industry, how English textbook, how their availability, how university has recommended particular textbook, which textbooks are available cheaper, how Indian writers writing in English were not promoted. All these things are considered that have helped to establish this publication industry, helped to establish formulation of English studies in India. The term which is used to refer to a set of expressions that are deviant from the standard English expression and which have become part of Indian English at present. So we have Indianization, then we have Indianism, then we have Indianness, and lastly we have nativism. You have to find out which is basically term that points out deviant, which is deviation from the standard English. So the correct answer, dear friends, is Indianism. What is difference between Indianism? Basically, Indianization is a linguistic concept. It is process of making a language item Indian linguistically. Okay. On the other, you can say Indianness is an abstract quality. We cannot define it. Nativism is once again promoting of the native element. While Indianism, according to Braj Kachru, there are many sorts of deviation. For example, it may be author specific. Let me inform you a bit in detail. It can be author specific. A particular author uses a particular expression which have no equivalent in English, standard English. For example, rape sister, Mulkraj Anand, he uses this example, rape sister. Now it has no equivalent. He has directly translated it. Then it can be text specific. It means a particular text uses some expression which is not to be found in standard English. He gives example of good as kitchen ashes in Kanthapura. Kanthapura, Raja Rao uses this particular example. Then register specific, for example, interdining. Once again, it is an expression which is a phrase which is not to be found in standard English. And area specific, for example, in South we have coconut paisam. Coconut paisam. Paisam is a word which is only to be found in southern India. So it is Indianism. Which among these statements is true regarding the distinct phonetic and semantic features of Indian English? Words like cousin, which have a restricted meaning in English, have semantic extension in Indian English with meanings which have typical Indian context and which do not exist in English. So it is a semantic extension. In English it is used in a limited sense, but in India it is used in a wider sense. So it is basically one feature. Second is, there is a distinct Indian rhythm in Indian English which is based on arranging long and short syllable and not stressed and unstressed syllables. In English language we have stress and unstressed pattern and that creates a rhythm. In Indian languages instead we have long and short syllables which set the rhythm. So these two qualities, which among these is true? Only first, only second, both first and second, or neither of them? And the answer is yes, both of them are feature of Indian English. The last question for this particular session, which among these features can be designated as example of typical Indian English? Transfer of units from local language into British English which has no equivalents for such units. We have already seen an example. For example, let me write one more. Bow my forehead. Second is to reduce standard phrases of British English into Indianized short version. So once again, you can find many, for example, foreign returned, and the formation of interrogative constructions without changing the position of the subject and the auxiliary items. So instead of where is he hiding, which is correct structure, where he is hiding. The options are both first and second, first and third, second and third, or all are correct. Obviously, all these are features of typical Indian Englishes. Okay friends, so this was our session, this was our 20 questions, and I hope I have been able to cover almost all the important aspect of this field of study, and I would suggest that you should read something about essays of Braj Kachru and Meenakshi Mukherjee. These are some names who have done great research in this field. We will soon meet in another session. Thank you, my dear friends.